What changes should Blizzard introduce to the Burning Crusade Anniversary realms to make the experience a lot better for the players, but also to attract new ones? This is a question I'll try to explain in this video. So the first question were, would you like to see changes? And here 83% of you voted yes out of 1,200 players. These results were also the reason for why I started making this video, as it seems like a lot of you would like to see changes on the Anniversary realms. But not all changes are welcome, at least not the WoW token. The majority wouldn't like this to be introduced, but still 39% voted yes, which is a high number. It also makes completely sense, because another question were, have you bought gold on the Anniversary realms? And here 25% of the people voted yes. Some of them explaining that items are just way too expensive, also the consumables they need for weekly raiding or other important materials. And when they can just go to work for an hour and get gold for an entire month, why would they like to try to compete with all the bots in the game? I mean, there are so many of those, which is also why a lot of the items is just increasing in price because gold is losing value. This might also be the reason why 39% of the people voted yes for a WoW token, simply because they don't really care about farming, they would just like to enjoy the game and purchase a token to get whatever they need on the auction house. This also brings me on to the next question. How much gold do each individual player currently have? And the majority is below 2000 gold. But there were also quite a few comments with people stating that they couldn't vote basically because they're below 500 gold. So I guess it ends up being way more than 61%. I'm wondering if it will cause more people to also buy gold, as you will need a total of 6000 gold to get the different flying skills and your epic flying mount. What other things would people spend their gold on? Probably gold DKP, at least 42% of you would like to do so. It is currently banned on the Anniversary realms, but it seems like a lot of you would like Blizzard to change this and finally make it acceptable. There's definitely different pros and cons about this topic. If you have got a lot of gold, then it's a great way for you to spend it and quickly gear up either your main or all character. Another example is a player who don't need any items in the raid, but they enjoy raiding, and this is mainly why they're also playing the game. This player is getting paid to do something they enjoy, instead of having to do open world farms against every other player, or the different bots. These bots are providing gold to gold sellers, and some of this is being sold to people attending gold DKP, so this is definitely a negative thing. However, it's not like you're forced to attend such a raid, as you could always be looking for a puck who is using the traditional role system, or join a guild where the loot is being distributed. Moving on to a different topic, the Burning Crusade pre-patch. A lot of you would like this to last for 2 weeks like it did in Burning Crusade 2021, but more of you would like it to last for at least 4 weeks or longer. I share the same opinion, because I remember back in 2021, people had to either no live solo level or pay a paladin or a mage to boost them quickly to 60. With 4 weeks we can level more casually and maybe even have enough time to work on our professions and a bit of gear at level 60. Back in 2021, they also introduced a level 58 character boost, but this wasn't available to draenei or blood elves. I believe Blizzard might also add a character boost on the Anniversary realms. Therefore, I'm also curious about one thing. Would you like blood elves and draenei to be boostable to 58? And most of you voted yes. I guess this might be because you felt like you didn't have enough time when it were only a 2 weeks pre-patch. Before I move on to the next topic, then I'm also curious about one thing. Do you believe Blizzard will add a character boost to milk the content, or simply to benefit from all the people who would like to purchase these? Let me know your opinion by posting a comment below the video. And down there, feel free to also let me know what price you feel like is fair for a level 58 character boost. Moving on to the next question, should there be fresh Burning Crusade Anniversary realms? 48% of you voted yes, where 52% of you would prefer just to stick to your current realms. But when almost half of the votes are for a fresh server, then this is also such an important topic to cover. And I gotta share my own opinion, as there's going to be different positive and negative things about this topic. Some of you might remember the Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch. Back then they also introduced some fresh servers, and I gotta admit, I had a ton of fun. Some of the main reasons for why I had so much fun were basically because I knew everyone were starting all over. So people had no gold, no max level character with the best possible gear, there wasn't boost all over the place, and people selling rare, green or epic items. No, we had to start all over and collect these things ourselves. This made many people join these servers, also players who had not been playing WoW before, because they knew it was a fresh experience, so they wouldn't be behind in any way. I believe this is why 48% of you also voted yes to a first server, maybe because you have not been playing much Anniversary, so you feel like you're far behind compared to the average player. What we also gotta remember is that draenei and Blood Elf will be playable in the pre-patch, so if everyone were starting all over, then there would also be more people to level with as those two new races. This is yet another reason for why the pre-patch should also last longer than 2 weeks, as it would give the average player enough time to hopefully also reach level 60 and maybe even try a couple of classic raids. This would also result in Burning Crusade being more difficult, as the average player wouldn't head into Outland with the best possible classic items from AQ, Blackwing Lair and Next Swarmers. Now you might also be wondering, what is the problem with a first server? Well, if we look back at the Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch ones, then in the beginning there were of course a lot of players, but as the pre-patch were about to be over and we moved into the next expansion, then a lot of players left and went back to the original classic characters with the best possible gear and a ton of gold. One of the reasons why they went back was simply also because they didn't have enough time to make it to max level, and they felt way too far behind even though it were a fresh server. What also made many people leave were that Blizzard for some reason decided to introduce a character transfer. So if you didn't really like this first server, you could always transfer back to your main. This was a big problem, and it resulted in many people leaving, and a couple of months later the server also felt completely empty. Another problem with the first server were that current guilds were also breaking up, as there were all of a sudden not enough players to cover the different roles. Basically because a lot of the players would either like to stay on the current server and the remaining part would like to try the fresh experience. Therefore, it's also difficult for me to argue that it is a good decision to either introduce or not to introduce a fresh Burning Crusade Anniversary realm. So let me know your opinion by posting a comment below the video. Alright, with this topic being covered, let's move on to the next one. Should normal flying speed be increased from 60% to 150% like it were in Wrath of the Lich King? The majority of the people voted yes to this question, but I definitely also see some big problems. Bots will now have an easier time farming, and there will probably also end up being more competition. In addition to this, it won't be such a big upgrade when you're getting your epic flying skill compared to original Burning Crusade, when normal is 60 and epic is 280%. In my opinion, there is a bigger problem with the normal flying skill, and it is the running speed, as this is also 60%, so anyone on an epic riding mount will also be able to get away from you, unless there's going to be mountains or other areas that you will need to get across. To be honest, then I do believe more people would probably also accept a change like this instead of increasing the flying speed to 150%, but I do understand why a lot of you would like to increase the flying speed as well. You're probably already familiar with the Barber Shop. This was originally introduced in Wrath of the Lich King, but it seems like the majority of the people would like this to also be introduced into Burning Crusade, even with the possibility to also change our gender. I gotta be honest, I doubt Blizzard will add something like this into the game. I guess it's going to be too much work. It's way easier for them just to release everything like it used to be in Burning Crusade Classic. A pretty common thing to do in this expansion is to bring 5 shamans into your 25-man raid setup. This is because Heroism and Bloodlust is a party buff only. Would it be better to change this into a raid-wide buff so you don't need to bring all these shamans? This would also change the different raid setups, so it's not going to be exactly the same like it were in 2021. In my opinion, this could be a positive change, as it would open up additional raid spots for other classes, but if they decide to implement a change like this, then it would also result in some of the content being more easy, and this could be a negative thing to some players. I guess most of you are also looking forward to the guild bank system, at least I am myself. But there's a chance we won't be able to enjoy this at the beginning of the expansion. At least we wasn't in the beginning of Burning Crusade Classic, and also not in the original game. I'm not entirely sure why we had to wait in TBC Classic. Maybe it were to hype up Phase 2 even more, as there would be more changes implemented. Nonetheless, I'm glad to see that basically almost all the voters here would like this to be introduced either at the start of Burning Crusade or in the pre-patch. This is exactly why I'm also making this video, to highlight some of the different topics, as it would hopefully give Blizzard an idea of what the community would like to be changed. And what about a permanent Burning Crusade server? Just like we got Classic Era. Is this a server you would be playing on, or are you afraid it would divide the player base even further? At least it seems like my community is more hyped about Burning Crusade compared to current Mist of Pandaria Classic. This is great news to me, as I enjoy making videos for this upcoming expansion. On my channel, you can for example already find many useful videos, and soon I will also release a lot more that you don't want to miss. Therefore, make sure to also subscribe and hit the notification bell, and please also share this video so we can give these topics more attention. Thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing day. Peace.